High blood pressure, also known as hypertension, develops when the force of blood pushing against the walls of the arteries remains too strong for a long period of time, and this process usually happens slowly and silently inside the body. Under normal conditions, arteries are flexible and wide, allowing blood to flow smoothly with minimal resistance, but over time factors such as chronic stress, unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, aging, and genetic tendency cause these blood vessels to change. Fat deposits, cholesterol buildup, and ongoing inflammation can narrow the arteries, while loss of elasticity makes them stiff, and when blood is forced through these tighter pathways, resistance increases and pressure rises, much like squeezing a water hose causes the water to spray out with more force. Another major contributor to high blood pressure is excess salt in the diet, because sodium causes the body to retain water. When the body holds onto extra water, the volume of blood circulating in the bloodstream increases, and this larger volume pushes harder against artery walls, raising blood pressure even if the vessels themselves have not narrowed much. The kidneys play a critical role in controlling this balance, as they regulate how much salt and water the body keeps or removes. But when kidney function becomes impaired due to long-term stress, diabetes, obesity, or early blood vessel damage, they may begin retaining too much sodium and water. This leads to increased blood volume, higher pressure, and in many cases a vicious cycle, because high blood pressure further damages the kidneys, making regulation even worse. Hormones are another powerful driver of hypertension, especially when systems meant for short-term survival remain active for too long. The body releases hormones like adrenaline during stress to increase heart rate and prepare for action, angiotensin to tighten blood vessels and raise pressure, and aldosterone to signal the kidneys to retain salt and water. These hormones are extremely helpful in emergencies, but in modern life, constant mental stress, poor sleep, and unhealthy routines can keep them switched on continuously. When that happens, blood vessels stay constricted, blood volume remains high, and the heart is forced to pump harder all the time, keeping blood pressure elevated even at rest. As the heart works against this constant resistance, its muscle gradually thickens to generate more force, which may seem helpful at first but eventually reduces efficiency and increases the risk of heart problems. Chronic stress and lifestyle factors further intensify the problem, as long-term stress triggers ongoing release of stress hormones, tightens blood vessels, and keeps the heart rate elevated, while obesity adds extra strain by increasing blood volume and producing hormone-like substances that promote inflammation and vessel constriction. Lack of exercise reduces the flexibility of blood vessels, smoking damages artery walls, and poor sleep disrupts hormonal balance, all of which contribute to higher resistance or increased blood volume. The dangerous part of high blood pressure is that it often produces no clear symptoms, allowing damage to accumulate quietly over years, affecting the heart, brain, kidneys, and eyes before a person realizes anything is wrong. In simple terms, blood pressure becomes high when blood vessels are too tight or stiff, when there is too much blood volume circulating, when hormones that raise pressure remain overactive, and when the heart is forced to pump with excessive force, and these factors often act together rather than alone. Understanding this internal process highlights why managing stress, improving diet, reducing salt intake, staying physically active, sleeping well, and addressing underlying health conditions are so important, because these changes help calm overactive hormones, protect blood vessels, support kidney function, and reduce the workload on the heart, ultimately allowing blood pressure to return toward a healthier balance. Hormones play one of the most important yet least visible roles in keeping blood pressure high because they are part of the body's built-in survival system, which evolved to protect humans in short-term emergencies, not to handle the constant pressures of modern life. From an evolutionary point of view, these blood pressure-raising hormones are life-saving. When the body faces danger, blood loss, dehydration, or a sudden fall in blood pressure, it must react immediately to keep vital organs like the brain and heart supplied with blood. To do this, the body activates powerful hormonal systems that raise blood pressure quickly and efficiently. Among the most important of these systems is the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, or RAAS, along with stress hormones such as adrenaline and noradrenaline. Together, these hormones increase heart rate, make the heart pump more forcefully, tighten blood vessels, and signal the kidneys to retain salt and water, all of which help raise blood pressure in a matter of minutes. Under normal circumstances, once the emergency is over, these hormones switch off and the body returns to balance. However, the real problem begins when these systems fail to shut down and remain overactive for months or even years. In today's world, the body is exposed to continuous signals that mimic danger even when no physical threat exists. Chronic mental stress, anxiety, financial worries, academic pressure, lack of sleep, unhealthy diets, and sedentary lifestyles constantly activate the same survival pathways that were once meant only for short-term use. The body cannot distinguish between physical danger and psychological stress, so it responds to both in the same way. As a result, stress hormones like adrenaline are released repeatedly, keeping the heart rate elevated and blood vessels partially constricted throughout the day. At the same time, the kidneys may misinterpret these signals as low blood pressure or low blood volume, triggering the release of renin and activating the RAS pathway. Renin leads to the production of angiotensin II, a hormone that powerfully tightens blood vessels and raises resistance to blood flow. Angiotensin II also stimulates the release of aldosterone, which tells the kidneys to retain sodium and water. Water naturally follows sodium, so blood volume increases, and this extra volume pushes harder against artery walls, further raising blood pressure. Over time, this constant hormonal activation creates a new normal inside the body, where blood vessels stay tighter than they should, blood volume remains higher than necessary, and the heart is forced to pump against increased resistance even at rest. The kidneys, which normally act as precise regulators of blood pressure, begin to lose their ability to sense true pressure accurately. Conditions such as high salt intake, diabetes, obesity, and early blood vessel damage can strain the kidneys, causing them to falsely perceive blood pressure as being too low. In response, they continue releasing renin, keeping the RAS system switched on even when blood pressure is already high. This creates a vicious cycle in which high blood pressure damages the kidneys, and damaged kidneys further increase blood pressure through hormone release. Stress hormones add another layer to this problem. Adrenaline and noradrenaline are designed to prepare the body for fight or flight by increasing heart rate, strengthening heart contractions, and narrowing blood vessels to direct blood to muscles and vital organs. In short bursts, this response is harmless and even beneficial. But when stress becomes chronic and unrelenting, these hormones remain elevated for long periods. Modern stress is usually mental rather than physical, so there is no natural release of this energy through movement or action. The body stays in a semi-alert state all the time, with blood vessels remaining constricted and the heart working harder than necessary. This persistent stimulation not only keeps blood pressure elevated but also increases wear and tear on the cardiovascular system. Aldosterone deserves special attention because it can raise blood pressure even in the absence of obvious stress. When aldosterone levels remain high, the kidneys continuously reabsorb sodium, and water follows, expanding blood volume day after day. This makes blood pressure particularly sensitive to salt intake, meaning even moderate amounts of dietary sodium can cause significant increases in pressure. Over time, excess aldosterone also damages blood vessels by promoting inflammation and stiffness, making them less flexible and more resistant to blood flow. As arteries lose their ability to relax, blood pressure rises further, even if hormone levels fluctuate. Several common conditions explain why these hormone systems fail to turn off. Obesity, for example, is not just a matter of extra weight. Fat tissue actively produces hormone-like substances that promote inflammation, activate the RAS system, and increase insulin resistance. High insulin levels, often seen in prediabetes and metabolic syndrome, stimulate the sympathetic nervous system and encourage the kidneys to retain sodium, both of which raise blood pressure. Poor sleep and sleep apnea also play a major role, as repeated drops in oxygen during sleep trigger stress hormone release and RAS activation, leading to particularly high blood pressure in the early morning hours. Over time, these repeated nightly surges reinforce the cycle of hormone overactivity. The danger of hormone-driven high blood pressure lies in its silent and persistent nature. Because these changes happen gradually, many people feel completely normal while damage is occurring inside their bodies. The heart adapts by thickening its muscle to pump against higher pressure, but this thickening eventually reduces efficiency and increases the risk of heart failure. Blood vessels exposed to constant high pressure become damaged and inflamed, raising the risk of heart attacks and strokes. The kidneys suffer progressive injury, worsening their ability to regulate blood pressure and fluid balance. Even the eyes and brain can be affected, leading to vision problems and cognitive decline over time. All of this can occur without obvious warning signs, which is why hypertension is often called the silent killer. In simple terms, hormone-driven high blood pressure develops when survival systems that are meant to protect us in emergencies remain permanently switched on. Blood vessels stay tight, the kidneys retain too much salt and water, blood volume increases, and the heart is forced to pump with excessive force day and night. The body behaves as if it is constantly under threat, even during rest and sleep. Understanding this process highlights why managing high blood pressure requires more than just lowering numbers on a machine. Reducing chronic stress, improving sleep quality, maintaining a healthy weight, limiting salt intake, staying physically active, and supporting kidney and metabolic health all help calm these overactive hormone systems. When these survival signals finally quiet down, blood vessels can relax, blood volume can normalize, and the heart can work more efficiently, allowing blood pressure to return closer to a healthy, balanced state.